go, it's hidden. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. This is our weekly Zoom here at FitFix Therapy. We do this every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. And just to kind of let everyone know that when these recordings are reshared to the group, they are actually shared via YouTube, but on a hidden link. So nobody can access that link unless they've been given it. So you cannot search for these videos. So just to basically maintain a bit of confidentiality, obviously, between us when we're talking about anything as well, just kind of reassure everyone. So today it's just Shivam and I. So we will interact over these questions or this topic. And kind of dive into it. So it's going to be a bit more, more rambling between the both of us today. So check-in questions. I only had one check-in question last week, and that was, what can we do when our energy levels are low? So when your energy levels are low, we have to find out why they're low. Are you lacking on sleep? Are you lacking on hydration? Are you lacking on food and fuel and sustenance? So obviously, for those of you that are looking at a fat loss goal, you obviously will be working in a calorie deficit. Mindfully in that calorie deficit, we don't want it to be so large that what happens is your energy levels start to dip and you start to decrease your actual, your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So you stop doing all your fidgeting and your moving and your pacing because you just feel so tired. So the idea is to find that sweet spot, really. And for most people, kind of sitting around the 300 calorie deficit is probably quite a nice place to sit, about 200 to 300. And again, the longer period of time we give ourselves to kind of enter or work on that weight loss or fat loss or decrease in calories, the better, because we can kind of create that deficit over a longer period of time. But obviously, when we have time restricted goals and we've got somewhere that we need to kind of drop weight very quickly, then you will have larger deficits. And most of the time we're thinking about people who are in competition sports where they need to drop weight. Good evening, Guggen. Okay, I did say he was going to pop in. Right, any other questions? Any questions from myself, Shivam, or Guggen for this week? Guggen, any questions?
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Sorry, I'm late. Sorry.
That's okay. There he is. He's at the bar.
Back in the bar, yeah. Back in the bar.
I think you put no questions for this week.
This week, did I have any questions? No, I think this last week was the technology thing. I think I've got a way around that, and the fact that if you're doing a regular workout, you kind of tell what you're going to do next. So you don't really need to keep your phone on you, to be honest. But you need to remember what you're doing weights wise. So pen and paper does come in handy.
Wow.
Unless you have a good memory. But no other questions really. Just trying to knuckle down really. Yeah.
Okay, cool, perfect. Well, let's knuckle down into this topic. So obviously we don't want to spend all night here. Right. So obviously stay muted when you're listening, get involved, ask questions, just so we don't have like children and cats and whatever company we have at home making noise, washing dishes or what have you. Okay.
I live alone, so I'll be all right, I think, yeah.
I've gone backwards, haven't I? There we go. Right. So today's topic is, are you training hard enough for your goals? So let's ask the question to you guys. Guggen, do you feel like you're training hard enough?
No, I could train harder for sure.
Okay. And what makes you say that?
I think I can put more effort into it. I think if I manage my time a bit better, I can spend more time obviously in the gym doing the gym work for sure. So it's a time thing, I think, just making sure I make enough time for it. So then I can then train hard enough to then reach my goals really. When I'm in the gym, I think I'm training hard. Yeah.
Okay. And Shivam? When you are training, do you feel like you're training hard enough?
I'm training to capacity,
Okay.
but I don't think that's hard enough. So I think for me, it's a matter of increasing my capacity.
Okay. We'll look into that capacity as well. And one of those will be something we've kind of touched on previously that might benefit you. So, I mean, not too many slides today, but I thought I would just kind of ramble over these different topics or these questions or you know, titles, if you like. So when we're looking at, you know, are you training hard enough? One of the first things that we might look at is training intensity. So again, your capacity for training during the session is going to be dictated by a lot of things. And we kind of covered this with our check-in question at the beginning. So we did talk about, you know, adequate sleep, hydration, and energy, that sort of thing. What's going to help dictate that intensity and how much energy you're going to have is what you've got in the tank. Another thing that you could do that some people might do before they go for a session, they might go and visit Gagan at his bar. Maybe not the bar, but the coffee bar first thing, right? They might go and have a coffee shot or a pre-workout or whatever it is, whatever your fix is, something to kind of get you zinged in and in the motion. And it's interesting. I think there's definitely a psychological impact to that as well, because what I have noticed is when I go to the gym, and again, it's a habit, I tend to like having a ginger shot. And now the gym that I go to, they have these ginger shots or turmeric shots sitting in the fridge there, you know, at reception, ready for you to go and spend a couple of quid on whatever it is in the little bottle. There's no caffeine in it, but it's just something about having a shot that just, I don't know what it is. It's a psychological thing. They've actually stopped stocking them. I don't know if we've just like bought them out. We've just bought so much, you know, so many ginger shots and turmeric shots that they've run out. So it's interesting because now I've got one of those bigger bottles and I'll just have a shot from home now, and it just makes me feel like zingy and in the mood and I'm ready to go. So yeah, I tend not to rely on things like caffeine and stuff too much, because you know, I don't really want to increase my dependency on those things. So obviously you guys that are on the live today, this isn't really applicable to you, but for the women, ladies, when you come back and you watch this, there will be other things that dictate your training intensity. So for example, certain times of the month, when you are going to have a decrease in your estrogen, basically resulting in a dip of energy, your fatigue is going to increase. And when you've got that fatigue increase, we're going to have an injury risk as well. So we've got to be mindful of things like that. Another thing as well is training when you are sick, unwell, or run down. So Shivam, I think you've probably done the right thing by taking a few days off, because from what you've told me, work has been hectic. And again, it's just really subjective, that gauging where that, you know, how much energy you really do have in the tank. And some days we might find that, you know, that could be an excuse, right? Or it could be genuine. And when you are run down and you are on the brink of being sick, it's not a good idea to train. And that's going to affect your training intensity. But saying that, if you are okay, you know, you're not actually sick, you haven't got the cold or the flu, maybe you're a bit tired, going into the gym and actually doing something might help you. But again, you're just going to drop the intensity down. Any questions on that? All good? Okay. So then we're going to move on to progressive overload. So progressive overload is an interesting one, and it's something that can affect us when we are at home, especially if we are restricted by weight, varieties. You might only have access to a certain number of dumbbells or plates or kettlebells, whatever it is that you work with. Even bands, even the resistance bands have different, you know, intensity. And we're thinking about progressive overload. we want to try and challenge our body that bit more. We want to try and increase the load. We want to increase the weights used, because ideally we want to create better, we want to place a higher demand on your muscles and increase the capacity for greater adaptations or muscular adaptations. So the ways that we can look at progressively overloading would be rep ranges. So some of you may notice that within your rep ranges, for example, if you're in a gym, you might have on your program 8 to 10 reps. Now, 8, you might have, 10 kilos and that's all good. But then you might find after a while, you know what, I can do like 10, super easy. When you start reaching the higher rep range, it's really a good indication to kind of move up. And also it's a bit of a guide to say, let's increase that load. Other ways that we can increase that progressive overload would be things like tempo. I haven't been too heavy on tempo with you guys, but tempo is basically how we control the exercise itself. So we're thinking about when we're moving a muscle, when we are contracting it or we are lengthening it, we can affect the tempo. So we can affect the tempo as we lengthen the muscle. That's going to create a greater demand on those muscle fibers. So that's also another really good way. Another one that we could do is decrease the rest times. So Gagan, I know you said you want to spend longer in the gym. Well, actually, maybe you want to think about creating shorter rest times, because you'll be able to pack in more within that time. Now, you might not be able to lift as heavy, but again, there's a fine line there, really. We want to try and increase or lift as much as possible. But yeah, these are just various different variables that might help you increase that progression.
What you're saying about increasing tempo, that's I've been doing that occasionally, where when I feel that it's that I'm finding it easy, instead of changing the weight, I just slow down the rep, and then I find that automatically increases the intensity.
Exactly, where you're going to be loading those muscle tissues in that eccentric phase, in that lengthening phase. So that's really good. And I guess because we've got some people on the program that like to do, for example, running, for example. I think running is a great form of exercise to kind of look at that progressive overload, and the ways that you could look at increasing that just very quickly. Mileage, obviously increasing how far you run, your pace, whether that's a nice light to moderate pace or it's a more intense one. That's also going to have an impact on your capacity for endurance as well, if you're blowing out too soon. So, making sure that you're sort of monitoring that pace. Again, we've got great apps that we can use on our watches that can kind of tell us what our pace is. And what I really like to use is a good old traditional RPE scale. So that stands for rate of perceived exertion. And you'll have generally, I kind of say 0 is you're sitting on the sofa, you're doing nothing, or you're sat in front of the screen. How we are right now, we're doing nothing. Our muscles are at rest. And 10, none of us can relate to this, but childbirth. Okay, so maybe it's man flu for you guys, right? But yeah, just kind of using that scale to kind of dictate how hard an activity is and when you need to increase that. Now, on the flip side, you don't want to overreach or kind of compromise technique. Technique triumphs all. Because when we start to compromise technique, we are going to set ourselves up for injury. We might start to experience a bit more muscle soreness than we'd really like to deal with. And we'll also have some poor recovery, because obviously, when we are inducing micro tears within muscles and things, like, yes, we need that to kind of recover and grow. But if it's too much, then, you're going to have a longer period of recovery. So that kind of does the first two. And again, these aren't going to take too long. So step in or chime in as and when you like. If you've got any questions or comments or anything, Guggen, we haven't heard from you yet.
No comments. I mean, with tempo, sometimes I see people in the gym and they're doing the opposite. They're getting really fast.
So that won't really benefit them, will it? That's just showing off.
Oh, okay. I was just checking. I wasn't too sure.
And are they lifting fast because they're trying to get that up fast? And are they compromising their technique?
Oh, they're definitely compromising technique. Because when you look at them, you're thinking, wait a minute, the whole body's going like this, and you're getting like this. I'm thinking, I mean, obviously, I'm not a bodybuilder, but that doesn't look right. But I'm guessing people do different things for different reasons. I assume.
Effects. Yeah, exactly. But I think if you're blue in the face and you're seeing someone doing a bicep curl, and it looks like what they're doing is moving their lumbar spine. You know, they're sort of arching the lower back.
Yeah.
Or how much how much of the biceps are under tension in comparison to the rest of their bodies, you know? Compound movements are great, but I mean, that's taking it to an excess, you know? That's, compound movements, we think of things where the muscles that we're targeting are actually working to help produce that force. You know, you might want to, if you want something working with your biceps, you might want to work some shoulders with it as well, but, you know, working the lower back,
no,
I don't know, not in that position.
With progressive overload, so like let's say, okay, we do like 10 kilos, let's say you're doing bicep curls, whatever it is, at 10 or 12 reps, and then I think in a program it sort of goes down to like eight reps or something, let's say, or lower reps by the time you get to your sort of third or fourth set, maybe a higher weight kind of thing is. I guess that's a good way to go, right?
Yes, definitely. And again, you'll probably likely sit the first part of that. And, you know, the thing is, you can always, again, like we keep coming back, and Shivan really nicely chimed in there with the tempo as well. Just by controlling that weight, you are going to make it that bit harder as well.
Okay.
So that's something good to kind of think of.
Yeah, I'll try that in the gym next for sure.
Yeah. So next thing we'll go on to is programming. So again, programming, there's a bit of a fine line with this one again. Ideally, yes, you want progression. So when we're thinking about progressive exercises, so looking at, for example, squats. So someone might go from doing a box squat where they just hold onto a weight and they stick their bottom on a box and stand up. That's a box squat. Then you might look at doing maybe a goblet squat where you have nothing underneath your bum and you're kind of sitting down into it. And a progression from that, again, this kind of feeds into exercise selection, would be like a barbell squat. Okay, so you've got barbell. So you're going to obviously increase the demand through the technique, the muscles used, your stability, just by changing the exercise selection. So that programming is going to occur, or it's going to get harder as we kind of get better at these things. Okay, so like obviously when I'm looking at your sessions and you're telling me you're not able to meet certain sessions because you found it too hard, well, we need to kind of look at either regressions, making the exercises easier, or adding in frequency as well, but at a lower intensity. I feel like I'm blending all bits here, but frequency is going to help you increase your sort of neuromuscular pathways to help get those sort of movement patterns in the brain and in the body. The repetition is going to help you perform better at those. So that's where frequency is going to help. When we're looking at potentially growing or inducing change on a muscle, we want to try and maybe revisit the same sort of exercises over the course of a week. So again, when we go back to bodybuilding, traditional bodybuilding, they would kind of go Monday, chest and triceps, Tuesday, back and whatever, biceps, and then Wednesday, legs and calves, and they start doing this, and you get down the week, in every single day of that week, if they're training 5 days, is a different body part. Well, that's kind of a bit pointless if they're looking to kind of enhance certain areas, because I know you can't work everything every week if you're doing it like that, but you've not had the ability to revisit that exercise, and it's a whole week since you've done it. So if you are, for example, you're trying to get, you know, good biceps, you want to try and you want the muscle to recover, but then you also want to add in the stimulus so that you can do it again and get better at it, and you're going to get more gains and advancement like that. So frequency is really important. These things all kind of tie in together. Again, when it comes down to exercise selection, ideally you don't want to be following your favorite Instagram influencer, because again, we kind of think to the glutes, that's very popular. It's a very popular area for women to train these days. They all want big bums, and you know, they do these ridiculous exercises. You see them on I think it's the Stairmaster, you know, the one that in the gym. Have you got Stairmasters at the gym group, Gagan?
No, we haven't got a Stairmaster, but
You've
I've seen online. I think we don't have one, I don't think, but I've seen online.
Start doing kickbacks.
There was like was it a Jacob's Ladder? I think it's called. I saw online. That looked quite interesting. I think it's like,
okay.
Yeah, that looks really good, but intense like hell though.
No, I'll have to check that one out. But the Stairmaster, what you'll see now, that's a cardio exercise. You're walking up the stairs, and they're moving on like a conveyor belt of some sort, like a treadmill would. But you've got these people kicking their legs up as if that's going to enhance the glutes, and it's not going to. So it might look cool, but it's not effective. So, you know, we have to think about the exercises that we're doing. What's the meaning behind the exercise? You know, what's the progression for it? Where can we add in overload or progressive overload? Where can we add in more weights for things like that? How can we make them more difficult? How can we change tempo? How can we add load? How can we create, you know, more intensity? Let's just ignore this bit here. You guys can see my screen. So yeah, and then it also brings me on to the thing of not doing a random new exercise every time you come into the gym, because have you really had a chance to get good at that exercise? How do you know that you've got better at it? If you know, 1 week you want to do a plank, and you can only do a plank for 10 seconds, and the next minute you're on one of these, you know, ab curls machines, and then the next week you go and do oh, do you know what, maybe I'm going to do this hanging leg raise. But you know, variety is great because it makes things fun, but if you want to truly improve your objective markers on an exercise, you've got to stick at them. The basics work. We can make things fun. There are obviously different ways to train muscles. You know, you don't want to be linear and, you know, training muscles in the same way forever. You want to add in variety, but a lot of the variety is very much, you know, it's basic in that sense. So again, it's not 1 week you're doing this and the next week you're doing that. You want to give your body a chance to get better at it, you know, rather than just picking something because it looked fancy. I mean, you could do that at the end of the session for the purpose of fun or excitement. You know, as long as you've got good technique and you're doing it safely, then why not if it makes your brain tick. However, the same actually, do you know, the same thing could come to not just strength training, but we could talk about the same thing for mobility. So if we are looking to try and increase mobility, we want to look at those exercises and see them get better again over time. So whether that's the capacity to kind of hold those stretches longer or take those levers longer, though, you know, those are the things that we want to try and look at. And again, when we're thinking about doing things like mobilizing the spine and hips and all of that sort of stuff, it's the same movement patterns. It's just taking the body through the ranges, however we want to package that up. I'm going to have a sip of water. So do we have anything to add or talk about? Has that all been quite good, or?
No, it's been really good. It's just food for thought, really, just about, you know, going to the gym and doing certain exercises, because it is fun to try different things in the gym that you might see online for sure. But yeah, you're right. If you can't actually, track it and you don't do it often enough, then you just do the new thing every time. It's kind of pointless. So, but yeah, no, it makes sense. It's
Yeah.
good.
Especially you want to try and get an outcome. If there's an
Yeah, of
outcome
course.
for
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's the whole point is a goal you need, isn't it? So
Yeah. But also at the same time, if you want to try something, then why not at the end? Because it's fun.
yeah, yeah.
We want to enjoy training. So yeah.
And with those Instagram influencers, with they're doing all the weights and stuff, yeah, I don't try and copy them, but they are entertaining for a male person like me. So yeah, beat around the bush, So yeah,
I saw a video earlier of Kim Kardashian doing a kneeling hip thrust or a kneeling, I think it's a kneeling hip thrust, a banded one with weights on her back. And there was another sort of well-known coach kind of actually saying, look, this is an exercise, but if you want to grow your glutes, then you really need to look at an alternative here, because where are you adding the progressive load? You could put more weight on your back. I wish I could pick it up, show it to you guys actually.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll forward it to you. But if you wanted to progress that, and you've got the barbell on your shoulders, because of the angle of the movement and the movement and where the force is coming from through the waist, and that's where the band is. If you add more weight on, well, all you're doing is making it a harder stability exercise. You're not actually making it an exercise to grow. You're just making it harder in a different way. Hopefully I've not lost you there. But yeah, anyway, so it's just kind of thinking the whys for things. Cool? All good?
Yeah, all good from my side, yeah.
Shivam?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's it. If we've got any questions, ask in the group or DM if private. And tomorrow, it's the most exciting day for all of us.
It's okay, yeah.
Our check-in day. So, you've got well over 24 hours, Thursday AM, so whenever you wake up, until Friday midday to kind of, put that in or what have you. Cool. All right. There's no more questions. I'll leave it there, guys. But we'll see you here this time next week, Wednesday, 8:30.
Perfect. Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye.